Well, I hope that was a great time of getting to know each other. We've discovered over the years that we've been serving in ministry with families, and it's been a lot of years, that most families find it really hard to get around to God talk with their kids.
Including us.
Yeah, it can be very difficult, and that's why we've designed the Faith Legacy series. And here's how it's designed to work. Every couple of years, beginning at birth, we invite parents to come together and talk about how to have devotions and a spiritual life at home. Starting at birth with the faith chest, and then age 2 is picture Bible, age 4 is the worship kit, age 6, towel and basin, age 8, first Bible, and at age 10 or 11, the father-son retreat and the mother-daughter retreat. And at each of these stages, we talk about the uniqueness of that life stage and how we can share our faith with our children at that stage. And the gift for this step is the towel and basin, where we emphasize how Jesus served his disciples and then calls us to serve one another in love. And we'll talk more about that later on.
You have 3 sessions in each one of those steps. And as you'll find out, you spend a lot of time discussing it amongst yourself. But all of it culminates at every step with a blessing event. And the blessing event is when you have a special object that's going to have significance to your child, and you're going to speak a blessing as you hand that to your child. It also happens in church. Now that's important because the whole church is saying, we are behind you families. You're the primary spiritual caregiver of your children, but we're behind you and supporting you and praying for you. It raises the value of what parents are to do in raising their children in faith in the Lord. The blessing event also imparts a spiritual blessing and spiritual power. We'll talk more about that later as we get to it. But now we want to begin with the end in mind. And that is legacy point 1. Begin with the end in mind. You've got a first grader, and it's going to happen so fast. That child is going to grow up and enter adulthood and be out of your immediate influence. And by the time these next 12 years go by, what do you want to see happen? What do you want your child to be like then at the end? Our challenge to you is that your children live in self-absorbed culture. It's all about me. And an important part of discipleship, and maybe the very core of it, is discovering that through a faith relation in Jesus Christ, it's not all about me. It's all about me giving myself away. It's selflessness. So in this step, we want to talk about devotional life that leads to a child being selfless in a self-absorbed culture.
I've got a story, Roger. There was a young man in a church that I served in previously who chose as his assignment for a church class to help his neighbor lady who couldn't walk. He literally carried her up the stairs. He was a junior higher, but he was a big junior higher. And he carried her up the stairs every night to help her get ready for bed. He did this every night of the week. Wow. The neat thing is, it was part of his assignment, but he did it before it was ever assigned. Isn't that beautiful?
I can think of times where tears have actually come to my eyes as I watched in our own church where we had 2 junior high boys, Caleb and Corey, and they had a special partnership with 2 special need children. And they helped them throughout the entire morning in children's ministry. They got so close to those kids that though those children were only in kindergarten, they invited these junior high kids to their birthday party. And they came. They were the hit of the party. But they found that the fullness of life is in giving life away, not just what you get.
And both of those kids saw their parents giving. That's a huge piece of that. I think of the young man, I think he was a kindergartner perhaps. He was very young, and he'd been saving his piggy bank for a year or more, And he had $50 in his piggy bank that he was saving for whatever he wanted to spend it on someday. And he heard about a special mission project at church that just caught his heart. And that little boy came into church that Sunday and dumped the entire contents of the piggy bank into that offering. And I mean, you know, that's, you know, talk about the widow's mite. My goodness, if you know that biblical story, this is everything he had saved up for an entire year, and he just gave it away. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our kids caught that kind of spirit of giving?
So start thinking about it. I can think of little Matt and Cassie who went with their mom and dad to the nursing home regularly and developed such a heart for seniors and learned to pray for them and minister to them in ways that other adults couldn't do. And they were in elementary school. Let's take some time and talk about your stories, families you know, kids you know, and they don't need to be huge. This has been a little bit dramatic. Simple acts of giving count, okay? But let's talk about just some of the examples you've seen of families or children giving, and enjoy the stories of what God's doing already in the people that you know or in your own family. Let's do that now.